Hi there, I am Stacey Ennis. I am a book coach and strategist, and I get this question all the time. How long will it take me to write and publish my book? Actually, it kind of looks more like this. I get a message from an aspiring author. It's like April, and they say, I want to write and publish my book by the end of the year. Okay, so I'm always like, wait a second, let's talk about this. And that's what you and I are going to do today in this video. I'm going to break down the timeline for writing your book. I'm going to explain what happens in each stage at a very high level so you understand why it takes that long. And I hope to convince you by the end of this video that you should not follow other advice that tells you to write and publish your book in 30 days or 60 days. It's bad advice. It's not a good idea. And I hope this video will explain to you why. You'll understand that you really should put the time, energy, and intention into every single stage of the book writing journey. So let's go. Let's get started. First things first, let's start really high level. As a general rule, my clients that follow my system and work with my publishing partners after the writing journey is complete, not that it's ever complete, it's an ongoing journey, but the writing journey of writing your draft, 18 months. That is the time frame that I typically recommend for authors. However, if you have the time, energy, and a reason to get it done faster, 12 months can work. And I'm going to explain how that can look if you were to follow a 12-month or an 18-month time frame. Much faster than that is very likely going to sacrifice the quality of the book, but maybe as importantly, maybe more importantly, is you're really going to miss out on your author journey. Being where you are in every stage is so important. Engaging in the transformative journey of authorhood, putting in your full effort and energy and creating something you are really proud to share with the world. Isn't that the point? Isn't that why you are doing this? I hope so. First things first, you have to write the draft. Nothing else can happen without that draft. The clients that I work with, these amazing aspiring authors I have the honor of guiding on their journey, they follow my system to write their book in 6 months. Now, some authors may do this a little faster, some may do it a little slower, but in general, I would say 6 to 12 months is a good time frame to write your draft. Much more than that, and I get worried about momentum. I start to get concerned also about the amount of time between chapters. So a lot of the writing process is about making those connections as you write. So if you're not putting in enough momentum into the writing process, you're going to miss some of those natural connections you'll make when you write it in a little bit more condensed format. Of course, having a structured step-by-step process makes a big difference in being able to complete this within a reasonable time frame, maybe that 6-month time frame that I mentioned. So working with a coach or following a program can be hugely beneficial. Next up is editing, and I smile really big here because I spent a good chunk of my career as a book editor, and I know what an incredible transformation a book can undergo with the right editor. I loved my role as an editor because I got to help transform books from good to great, and it really is an important stage for your book. There are 4 main stages of editing: developmental editing, substantive, also known as content editing, copy editing, and proofreading. I won't go into detail about all of those right now, but it's important to know that there are 4 main stages, and nearly all books need to go through at least 3 of them: substantive, content editing, copy editing, and proofreading. And those typically take place in multiple rounds. Certainly proofreading actually requires multiple rounds of proofreading if you're doing it right, if you are making sure that that end product is error-free and as clean as can be coming out to market. The editing process can take anywhere from 3 to 6 months. It can take a little bit less. Let's say if you are a more established writer and your draft is really structurally sound, it's clean, it doesn't need as much editing work, certainly that could go a little bit faster. But 3 to 6 months is a good range to plan for when you are engaging in the editing process. And especially if we're talking on that upper end, that would include your self-revision process. So you write your first draft. Many authors will also go through a self-revision process, then they'll go into the editing. So you can see how that would take some time to go through all of that. You need to send it to your editor. They have to do the editorial. It comes back to you. You revise the draft. Sometimes it goes back to them. Again, it really depends on the status of your draft. I can't diagnose that for you right now, but just expect that it could take somewhere in the range of 3 to 6 months. And of course, this never becomes a book in readers' hands without the publishing process. And the publishing process is way more complicated than you think it is. I guarantee it, especially when we talk about distribution, which is how your book gets in readers' hands. There is a lot to the publishing process. There are many layers, many people involved to help make that book a reality. This is easier if you're working with somebody who can support you through this process. So if you're a self-publishing, working with a self-publishing coach or consultant, or if you are hybrid publishing, you will have a team built in with that hybrid publisher that will be supporting you. And of course, traditional is its own thing over here. But I'll say as a side note about traditional, that timeline is going to be longer than all of this. The traditional timeline, typically from the moment your book is accepted with the traditional publisher, it's usually about 18 months to market, give or take. Of course, there's many exceptions, but 18 months. With hybrid publishing, once your draft is completed, it's handed in. Maybe you've done some editing beforehand with an editor, or maybe you're using in-house services for the hybrid publisher. That process is usually going to take 6 to 9 months. Most of the hybrid publishers I work with want that 9-month timeframe to do all the things that they know will make a book successful. And you can do a really good job in 6 months. So just keep in mind that it's very possible and doable to do it faster. But then again, I ask you, why? What is the rush? Why are you trying to do it faster? There may be a good reason for that, such as a conference coming up that you need the book for, or you have a unique window of time and energy to pour into this. For most people, there's not a really good reason to push it 3 or 6 months faster. So I normally advise them to slow down and engage fully in the stage they're in. You can absolutely start capitalizing on authorhood well before the book comes out. You can share about your book, you can talk about it, use it in your marketing. It's just that it won't be in readers' hands just yet. An important side note here that I need to make is we have to talk about your book launch. And this sort of fits within kind of overlapping the timeline we're discussing. It's not like at one point you're done with editing, you move into publishing, and then you just move into launch. It actually overlaps. So your launch window, meaning you're putting that effort and energy into marketing the book, getting all the things prepared for the release of the book, that is usually somewhere around 3 to 5 months before the release of the book and 3+ months after. So that also needs to be kept in consideration as you are planning this whole thing. The launch includes any publicity efforts you're making. If you are wanting to pitch podcasts, if you are driving events around the release of your book, like a book tour or a book party when it releases, please have a book party. You deserve a book party. All of the things that are connected to the release of that book. So it drives the success of your book, the energy around the launch. And I also encourage you to show up big during this process because it can be really, really fun. And it can also help you be successful as an author. And then I also want to know, along with the launch piece, you also have to think about ongoing marketing. So while I am showing you a timeline to write and publish your book, I also want to put in your brain that it's not done when your book comes out. It's a long game. It's something that should be integrated into your mission, your business. All of your efforts should integrate that book. So if you're writing your book as part of your business strategy or your impact mission, that book should become part of that, and you should be talking about it. You should be promoting it. All of this should continue on. It doesn't just end when the book comes out. All right, let me summarize 2 potential timeframes to get your book out into the world. So first would be that 12-month sprint. So that's the volume turned up a little faster, a little bit more aggressive in how you're writing, editing, publishing, and launching that book. First, you'll spend 6 months on the writing. That's, for me, pretty non-negotiable, but you could do it a little faster if you need to. You'll be in the editing process for 3 months, but you will overlap the publishing with that editing process. So you will be in publishing for 6 months in total, but you'll start that publishing process as your book is going through editorial. So you'll begin design, you'll begin building landing pages for it, you'll begin planning your launch. All of that will overlap as you are in the editing stage. So you can see how this will be much more high intensity. It will be higher stress, but if you have a reason to get it to market faster, you can certainly follow this timeline. My preference is 18 months. It's a steadier pace, but there's still a lot of momentum behind it. You're still going to be busy. It's not a cakewalk. You are going to be showing up. You're going to be driving energy and focus and intention around this. And you'll be doing it in a way that will let you be present in every stage. So this will look like 6 months of writing, 3 months of editing, but if you need a little bit more, you can overlap some of that with the publishing process. Of course, you will be doing proofreading and that sort of thing during the publishing process, but just keep in mind if you need a little bit more time, there is some space with a 9-month publishing process, which is what I recommend in this time frame. So that's 6 months of writing, 3-ish months of editing, 9 months of publishing to have that release of your book and step fully into your next level of impact and influence as an author, which is so exciting. So you can understand, I hope, now that you've gotten all the detail on this, why I'm always a little put off when people in my industry try to convince people that they should write and publish a book in 30 or 60 days. And there are a lot of reasons for this. Number one is that you will be completely robbed of your author journey. And why? You have a goal to write a book. Probably you've held it for a long time. So what is the rush? Why rush it? And why do something that you're not deeply proud of? Two is that it just is going to create a book on the other side that is not as good. Like there is absolutely no way that a book that is written and published in 60 days compared to 18 months is going to be a better book. It's pretty universally not ever going to happen. If you have an exception that you can point me to, please do. That the author actually wrote themselves, not with a ghostwriter, and they truly did it in that period of time, I don't think it exists. And then lastly, there's often some unethical tools that are used in the process. If you're doing it this fast, of course, in that would be generative AI. I would really tread lightly in these areas. I would be really careful about using any generative AI in your book. I actually require that my clients do not use generative AI while writing their books. I see the legal writing on the wall. I also know that when you're using some of these tools, you're not engaging your brain in a way that is going to benefit you in the long term. You are not going to undergo that absolutely amazing transformative journey of authorhood. It requires you to put in the thought. It requires you to show up. It requires you to wade through the muck and the mud to create something that you are just deeply, deeply proud of. I hope this was really helpful for you. I'd love to hear from you as you listen to these timelines. Which one resonates with you? Do you feel more inclined to the get it faster to market in the 12 months? Do you lean more toward the 18 months? Would you imagine doing it a little bit slower? If you're in your publishing process or you've already gone through this, what did you learn about the timeline? Please share with me in the comments. I love hearing from you, and you can learn from each other. It's such a great way to knowledge share. This is a big journey, and why not share what we've learned with each other? Everything that I've mentioned, I have included in a blog post with a lot of detail, really well outlined for you so that you can utilize it in your own planning for your author journey. I'll be sure to add a link to that in the description of this video. And you're still here, you're still watching this, so be sure to subscribe. I put out regular content on book writing. I try to be very useful, practical, and sometimes give you like a little nudge to help you along your author journey. Thanks so much for being with me. Now go write your book.